Blessings and peace to you. This is SB Favor Thinking Podcast, and my name is SB Favor. How are you doing today? It is Monday, October 25th, 2021. Another wonderful day and another day to be thankful. And as I always say, if you focus on what is good, then you can project something good to happen. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day because we all have so much to be thankful for. And if you think you don't have anything to be thankful for, just look around you. Just look around you. If you can walk and talk, if you can sing and dance, guess what? You have something to be thankful for. So before I start this topic of this episode, I would like to remind you, if you would like to give to the podcast, make sure you give at Cash App, $ at SB Favor. All donations are greatly appreciated. I am talking so fast, but it's okay. Because I'm excited because I got a special guest here tonight. Her name is Toni Howard. Yes, indeed. We're going to talk about liberty, the liberty to be you, living a spiritual life, because we all need God in these times. But sometimes people think that seeking God means you have to become religious. And I always talk about what's religious versus what's spiritual. So we're going to get into that topic, liberty to be you, living a spiritual life, because when you live a spiritual life, it's about your heart. It is about the effort you make every day to be a better person, to work on yourself. Toni Howard, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, I sound real excited, right? Because I am really, you know what? More than anything, I'm just really, really thankful because I had a really, really good day. And, I'm really thankful. And I'm happy that you are here. So, tell the listeners, I should say, because you don't have to tell me anything about yourself. I already know who you are, but the listeners need to know who you are. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So just a little bit of insight about me. I am a HR professional. I've been in the profession for over 21 years, but at this point in my journey as an HR professional, I am focusing on leadership, coaching, and development. So most of my time is generally spent working with individuals or teams to shift cultures and create success within organizations. Mm-hmm. And so that's my focus at this point, in my professional journey.
That is absolutely awesome. You said a key word, development. We all need to develop. What you say? We need to develop on another level. We need to grow and we need to work on ourselves, So that goes right into what we're talking about. Development, living a spiritual life, the liberty to be you. Oh, Toni, what comes to your mind when you think about somebody that is, or I should say, desires to live a life for God, but they feel like they got to follow all these rules, so to speak, because that keyword development is very important. But what do you think about when it comes to that?
First word that came to me as you were talking was restrictive. And I think that when, you want to live a life for God, but you find out that there's all these rules, like you were saying, mm-hmm. It restricts you. It restricts you from life. Mm-hmm. It restricts you, believe it or not, from society in some aspects. Mm-hmm. And it could also, because I've seen it, restrict the mind.
Oh, restrict the mind. So for somebody out there that wants to know that they could live a spiritual life and be who they are, don't you think that's okay? Because unfortunately, sometimes people are taught that, oh, well, I want to live a spiritual life. I want to get to know God, but I got to follow all these rules. But you can still be who you are. What you say?
I agree. You can definitely still be who you are. And still have a relationship with God and be in the circumference of spirituality. I think what happens a lot of times is people don't realize that they're in a space of religion versus the relationship. And so the religion, in my opinion, could be the restrictive part, because you get all these rules from the religion, when really it isn't the religion that helps you cultivate your spirit. It isn't the religion that develops, right, your character, your personality. It's the relationship.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. Being raised in the church myself, when I was a young teenager, like I was telling you, we had an earlier conversation on another day. I said to you, I would go to the Baptist church and I would see the Baptist church. They was just making things happen. And then I would go to the Pentecostal church and I would just see a different type of people. Both sides was good, but it was just a difference. The Baptist church, I saw people more liberated, but the people in the Pentecostal church, I saw them restricted. You use the word restricted, and that's what I saw. And both are good. So listeners, I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. Both are good, but what Toni is saying is that the relationship that we should have with God is our liberty, right, Toni? Relationship, because religion, what does it really do? What does it really do? It doesn't do anything. Religion to me is just a bunch of words and a bunch of stuff, but no power. But relationship to me is something that's compelling. And it's something that's compelling that has love. Because God compels us to do the right thing unto him with love, right? Right, Toni, what you say?
No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because as you're talking, I'm just it with the religion, right? So let me go back to what you said about the relationship and love, right? So that's like one of the key things about the relationship. But as you were talking about that, what came to me was one other difference outside of love that comes with the relationship is dialogue. And dialogue does not come with the religion. So religion is almost didactically one-sided, right? Because you're learning what to do, what not to do in that space of religion. But in the relationship, there's a dialogue between you and the Father, and you're telling him, but at some point he's responding, which is causing you to have the ability to move, to be flexible, to shift, and to grow off of what he's saying. Because most of the time what he's saying is according to his word, right?
Right.
But the religion is just stuff. Like you said, it's just, don't do this, don't do that. I remember when early on, I've been like saved for, 21 years, I guess, as long as I've been an HR professional, right? And I remember when I first came into the knowledge of Christ, I was like wearing like these skirts that was like down to my ankles and this stuff. And like you were saying earlier, some of it is good. But then when I realized that is not the sole purpose of the right.
No, it's not at all. Because I think that for me, I'm just sitting here thinking while you're talking, and it's so much that's coming to my mind now. For me, I just keep thinking about liberty. The liberty to be you, living a spiritual life, compelled to do what is good because you love God. That's a relationship, right?
Yep.
Not the outward appearance. You just described the outward appearance. Wearing long skirts and dressing a certain way, talking a certain way. We don't have to conform to something to love God. I guess that's the point of it all, right?
Right.
That's the point of it all. So what would you say to someone that doesn't understand the liberty to be who they are versus religiosity? What would you say to that person to understand the difference?
I guess it would depend on the person and the relationship that I had with the person. And I only say that because sometimes it gets, and this is just reality, right? Sometimes it gets a little sticky with
sticky. Go ahead.
With individuals that have been aligned with religion for so long.
Right.
Although they have a private relationship, where they are on the pendulum is more so on the lines of religion. So, it would all depend because, one thing that I don't do and haven't done at all, actually, in my journey, which I'm really grateful for, is try to argue the word, with anybody. Right. It's like, okay, it is what it is. But I think at this point, that relationship is so freeing, it's so liberating, and it allows you to be authentically you without being like sorry. You can be you, and I'm not saying from the perspective of out here being crazy and a tyrant and anything like that, because we do know that in Christ we are new creatures. Old things pass away. Behold, all things are brand new. However, there is a liberation and a freedom to those things being brand new. So, I remember a pastor of mine said a long time ago, and I don't think many people in our congregation at the time caught it, but he said, God will change your character, but he won't change your personality.
Right.
And it's like, okay, with religion, a lot of times with that stuff, those things, those rules that they set before an individual causes the individual to be kept in their personality.
Exactly.
And, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so, I know I'm going way off the question, but it depends on who my audience is, because some people are just not in a place,
right,
to walk out their liberation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But what I would say to you listeners is, by all means, have a prayer life and make sure that you have a diligent prayer life. And I say that, I'm led to say that right now because living a spiritual life, seeking liberty to be you, with a prayer life, you can develop. I think that a lot of times people sadly just misunderstand what a spiritual life really, really is, and because of a lot of things that they have been shown by the church, whether it's, the Black church, the Catholic church, just religion, sometimes people just don't believe that they can grow to follow principles versus live in restrictive rules, so to speak. It's a blessing to have a relationship with God and learn how to follow principles versus, somebody just throwing a book at you, so to speak. because it's something that we all learn over time. Liberty is learned, understanding who God is and understanding who you are as an individual. So, but living a spiritual life, the liberty to be you, it's important that we know who we are and that we know who God is. First and foremost, knowing that He loves us, and knowing that religion is, to me, it's not healthy. And I say not healthy in the context of, I'm talking about rules. Toni, you used the word restrictive and restrictive. That's a good way to describe that. Wow. That's a good way to describe that. So tell me about a personal time in your life where you knew you was living, by those restrictive rules, because you told me about the skirt wearing. So tell me something else.
Shoot, it was many years. Just going to the church. Every time the doors of the church was open, because that is what you saw around you, or I saw around me. It was kind of like, well, this is what you do, especially being a single person.
Right.
Well, this is what you do to protect your life, and you make sure that you're around people of God, and so at one point in time in my journey, I was so engulfed in building the kingdom via the church.
Right.
That I served in many areas and was always available, and, just secular music wasn't an option at one point in time. And then I learned, no, that's okay. There's a balance.
Right.
But I learned that, and this was, and you said something that's real strong, a prayer life. Yes. I learned through my prayer life, to be honest with you, and just sitting back and watching the church, that what I have on my life is so needed for what's outside of the church. In my authentic personality, and who I am as Toni Howard,
right,
it's needed outside of the church. So the time that I spent always being in the church, now I spend more time being outside, if that makes sense,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, I shared with someone else, I said, it's funny, but inside the church, so many people, so many of us are looking for their elevation, for their, their platform, so to speak, or to be inside the church. So we have a lot of believers that are chasing believers. But if you understand the word, he wasn't chasing believers.
Right.
And so in my journey, I've gotten to a place where my focus is not saving souls in the church. Right. And I hope I don't miscommunicate that.
No, you didn't miscommunicate that here, because you know what? This podcast was created to inspire people, motivate people, not with a religious tone. I always say to my listeners, I'm spiritual. I was raised in the church, but this platform was created to inspire people. I want to inspire people to seek God. I want to inspire people to work on themselves. And so everything you said pertaining to the church and what happens in the culture and what people are doing, you're absolutely right. I mean, we all as individuals, we have something to do that's outside of the building of the church, outside the four walls of the church. We all have to connect with the next person to help them in some type of capacity. So you are absolutely right. it's so important to be mindful of who God is and why we have a relationship with him. And when I think about that personally, I think about liberty, because people in the world need to be free to think about goodness in a way they've never thought about goodness before. Goodness is not always just material things, but the goodness of God that brings you liberty to be you, the real you. You don't have to become something you're not just to have a relationship with God. You don't have to do that. You can be who you are, have a relationship with God, and develop to be something better. And that's what it's all about. Having a spiritual life and the liberty to be you is about developing to be a better you in God, with God. And that's what it's all about. You have any questions for me, Toni?
Well, I don't have a question. I just have a statement.
Mm-hmm.
And that statement is being you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Authentically you.
Yes.
Is a very powerful
Mm-hmm.
place to be, right?
Yes.
Because even when you find yourself in a place that you may not want to be in,
Mm-hmm.
there is no condemnation to you because you are being authentically you. You understand? Like you're no longer
Mm-hmm.
you're no longer
Confined.
worried or concerned,
Mm-hmm.
right, about the rules,
Right. Right.
because you have an understanding of the love of God.
Right.
You have an understanding of who you are in God.
Right.
And so, as my, pastor says, sometimes we have dumb days, and so a person that is liberated
Mm-hmm.
and, like you said, knows who they are,
Mm-hmm.
then they understand that dumb day, that dumb week, that dumb month does not discount them from being spiritual.
Absolutely. Absolutely. None of us are perfect. And so that goes into just simply being the best you each day. That means doing the work, prayer, seeking and listening and reading spiritual content. And that does not only apply to just the Bible. Spiritual and motivational and inspirational content could be anything that is good, anything to help you to be a better you. Because some people, sometimes they say things like, oh, well, I don't want to have a relationship with God because I got to stop doing this and I got to stop doing that. Well, guess what? I would rather have a relationship with God in trouble versus not having a relationship with him at all.
That's the truth. That is absolutely true.
So
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. So that's why, I wanted to talk about this topic, because people need to understand that, when the Bible says, come as you are, God simply means just that. Come as you are. A relationship. It's not about the rules. It's not about some prerequisite of you being something in order to have a relationship with God. Having a relationship with God is the most beautiful experience that I've ever had in my entire life. And little did I know that I've always had an experience with God. I just didn't know it. I just didn't know it. Since I was a young kid, I thought that, when I became a teenager, I just came into the knowledge of God. No, when I think about it now, I have always spoken to him. I've always prayed in some kind of way. But I guess in my mind, I thought, well, that wasn't a relationship, but it was. Even if you said, Lord, help me, that's a prayer. Mm-hmm. A quick prayer. And I said that many times as a little kid when I was scared. I believed every time I said that, God responded. I believed that, So listeners, we just want to encourage you, inspire you to just understand that the liberty to be you, living a spiritual life, has everything to do with developing in God, seeking God, having a relationship with God. It's not about the four walls of the church, how much you go to confession, how much you see the priest. It's not about those things. It's about, do you have a relationship with God? Because when you have a relationship with God, you have the liberty to be you, to live a spiritual life. And that's what it's all about. I don't have any steps for you today, because I usually give out these little tips, but I don't have any tips today. I just wanted to talk about this a little bit with Toni, because Toni is a spiritual giant. That's what I call you anyway, Toni. I call you a spiritual giant. Toni is a spiritual giant, and she's one of those people that, she'll pray, and she knows how to get things done because she has a relationship with God. And we talk a lot. She's my friend. She's actually a friend of my entire family, really. She's been around us for a long time, and, I'm glad about that. But listeners, we just want you to be encouraged and inspired. And I hope that you got something out of what we were saying. You did get something out of what we were saying. I'm going to speak it into existence. So Toni, is there anything else you want to share?
No, I just piggyback off of you. Be encouraged to be authentically you. Be liberated without excuse.
Yeah. I know some people that have never even gone to church, right? They've never even gone to church. And I remember meeting people, and they said to me, I've never been in a church, but I've always had a relationship with God. And I said, wow, that's beautiful. Have you ever met anybody like that?
I have. And believe it or not, it goes back to what you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's about principle,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because those people, at least the one I can think of right now, as you presented the question,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He has a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in that relationship, in his life, he follows principles.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And what I noticed in his life is the principles that he follows produce.
Yes, absolutely.
Although he doesn't go to a church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then, the flip side of that is the person that's been in church all their life, or the person that's been in the church the last 15 years, they looking at that person like they don't know nothing.
Exactly.
But the person that person that's never been in the church, they have a profound relationship with God, but they're judged because they haven't been in the church, but they got evidence. They
have evidence.
Isn't that awesome? Those are my kind of people. No disrespect toward the church, but no disrespect toward the church, because, I love all people. But I'm just keeping it real. I would rather talk to the person that has never been in the church and has evidence, they have a relationship with God, they know how to pray, versus the person that's religious and just talking, but there's no evidence.
Yep.
I would rather, because that's just me. I'm just keeping it real. I do not like, I'm going to just say it. I hate religiosity. I always say this to God. I hate it. I hate it because I just think that religiosity, it hurts people. It doesn't help them. And it does not help people to be liberated. It does not help people to understand the love of God, the power of God. Religiosity is just a bunch of dogmatic stuff. If I'm saying that right? And it's no power in it. And so I just, embrace people that have a relationship with God, and they have the evidence. They have the evidence in how they treat others. They have the evidence in how they respect others, how they talk to others, their social skills. Their life lines up according to who they are. The liberty to be them, a spiritual life, not a religious life, a spiritual life. So that's where I am right now, because I've been on both sides of the fence. I've seen some things that I told myself I don't want to be a part of. And then I crossed the other side of the fence and I said, you know what? This works for me. One side of the fence was the religiosity. I said, no, that's not me. The other side of the fence, which is the being liberated with God, a spiritual life, that's me. So that's where I am. So
I totally understand that. I totally understand that. Mm-hmm. And I can remember, sitting in between services, mm-hmm. and there was some conversation in the church. Mm-hmm. And as I sat there, I just laughed to myself, without judgment, mm-hmm. right? Because mm-hmm. we don't judge anybody.
Right.
But mm-hmm. in my laughter to myself, I was like, that's so religious.
Yeah.
I was like, this conversation is so religious, mm-hmm. and it doesn't attract, right? Mm-hmm. The people that it's supposed to attract based on the word.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so mm-hmm. it's amazing, but mm-hmm. I'm totally with you, in regards to really, like I shared with someone, I said, one thing that we want to be very aware of is that we align ourselves with people that have bore the fruit of what we are trying to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's very challenging to find fruit in religion. Mm. I believe that the fruit comes from, as you said earlier, the principle, right? Because the Bible really is made up of principles and patterns. That's
right. Yeah.
So it's like, I believe the fruit comes from the principles, right? That's mm-hmm. applied, because you can have, I think this is the other thing too in religion, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Because you said earlier about the people being in the church for, a certain period of time and they ain't got no evidence, right? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. So the difference between the relationship and the religion is that religion has principle, but principle not applied.
Exactly. And that's the point of it all. That is the point of it all. And that is why the liberty to be you, being who you are, authentically you, and living a spiritual life with a prayer life, a relationship with God, a real relationship with God, guess what? You're going to be all right. You said it earlier, Toni. You used the word dialogue. That dialogue, daily, it makes the difference for us to work on ourselves, to be a better person in every way. And we owe it to ourselves to do it, to have a good life. We have to do it. It's so important. So listeners, be encouraged to seek God and learn about who you are and work on yourself. Toni, you have anything else you want to share?
Every time you ask me that, then I go on this.
Yeah, because we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up.
So I don't have anything else at this time. I just really appreciate you, allowing me to come on this evening and just to be a part of an awesome move and project that you have.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on to just chat with me. It's important. I'm pulling on you to say more because you have so much to share and offer others. And so I want to have you back again. And thank you for just taking the time to chat with me. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to listen to SB Favorite Thinking Podcast. Please, if you need to reach me, you can reach me at sbfavor@yahoo.com via email. You can also reach me find me, I should say, at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SB Favor. I also have a TikTok handle. I'm not dancing over there, but I do have inspirational content. I also have a YouTube channel. Please click like, share the podcast with others. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so that you can receive a notification each time there is a new episode of SB Favorite Thinking Podcast. Thank you, listeners, so much for supporting this podcast. And as I stated earlier, if you would like to donate to the podcast, you can donate at $ at Cash App at SB Favor. Excuse me. I am just speaking so fast and I'm a little tired too now. So anyway, listeners, thank you so much and you have a good day.